Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to your Tuesday update. We've moved these updates to Tuesday and Thursday starting this week, and I'm here with Wanda as always. But today we actually have a special treat for you, which is we'll have Deputy Chief of the Calgary Emergency Management Agency, Sue Henry, with us. So I want to, as always, remind us that the work we're doing here is very serious. We will likely hit the 50 mark in terms of people we've lost here in Calgary today. And those are 50 people who were friends, who were family members, who were loved ones, they were our neighbors. Ultimately, they were our people. And today is April 28th, is always the National Day of Mourning. It's the day that we mourn people who have been killed or injured or who have fallen ill in the workplace. And you'll see that all of the flags at city facilities across the city are at half staff today. And starting today, they will remain at half staff. I have asked that those flags stay down at half staff for the duration of this crisis that we're facing so that we remember that as we are having discussions about reopening, as we're having discussions about what activities are and are not available, that ultimately this is an issue that is about life and death. And I want to remember the people that we've lost and ensure that we hold them in our memory and that we act accordingly as we continue to keep ourselves safe in this period of clean hands, clear heads, and open hearts. Before I invite Sue onto the stage, I also want to acknowledge another tragedy very close to home in the middle of a global emergency, which is, of course, the flooding in Fort McMurray. I know that the Calgary Emergency Management Agency has been reaching out, offering assistance. I cannot even imagine having a state of emergency on top of a state of emergency and trying to deal with that flooding during a pandemic. And certainly we are there, as we always will be, for our colleagues in Fort McMurray. So we wish them well. We know that they know what they're doing. We are here to assist even in the middle of this pandemic. Our priority is always to ensure that we're keeping everyone safe. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Sue Henry for our situational update. Sue.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Mayor Nenshi mentioned, I want to take a moment and recognize the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo for the circumstance that they're going through today. We're obviously thinking about them and our hearts go out to them, and we're on standby should they need any assistance. We recognize that they are no stranger to floods and to disasters. However, dealing with an evacuation in conjunction with the response to COVID has presented another entirely different level of challenges. I recognize our own natural disaster response is at top of mind for Calgarians as we view these images of the flooding in northern Alberta and as we enter into fire season. I want you to know that from the City of Calgary, we have developed contingency plans and we are as ready as we can be for these other events that may occur. We have changed some of our processes around emergency social services. We've moved to a virtual environment and we've done a ton of planning to be ready to handle these emergencies. With spring here, I know Calgarians are very excited to take advantage of the sunnier weather and spend more time outside. I know you're making great sacrifices in your own planning and in your own home to keep appropriate distance from others when out. I'm happy to report that we've had a lot of positive feedback from our parks ambassadors who have been out in the community over the weekend. They've been educating citizens on how to enjoy our parks, our pathways, and our green spaces, while reminding them about the safety requirements if you're going to be out to spread out. In addition, our Calgary Community Standards officers have conducted 362 patrols since Friday, and they continue to report back that they're getting improvements in the social distancing among the citizens. So just a moment to say thank you to Calgarians that have been doing that appropriate response. That being said, we have a few numbers for you. There are still some circumstances where Calgarians are not observing the necessary behavior. Our Calgary Community Standards officers issued 140 warnings, as well as 3 violation tickets of $1,200 a ticket. These were to individuals not following physical distancing requirements in Lindsay Park. 3 violation tickets of $400 were issued to individuals who were using a skate park. And as you'll know, skate parks have been closed since March the 27th. Additionally, 3 violation tickets of $120 were issued to individuals for drinking in a public space. We prefer to use enforcement as a last resort. We need the public's cooperation to help understand the seriousness and the requirement for following these public health measures. Since Friday, we have had 1,515 calls to 311 related to COVID-19. Some of these were concerns and some of these were inquiries. 338 of these calls were related to physical distancing concerns. This is where, as Calgarians, we can control this. We can take the behaviors necessary to not have these concerns come forward. We had 58 calls about physical distancing in public spaces, 34 calls concerning private yards or areas, 38 calls concerning playground use, and 34 calls regarding the size of gatherings. In addition, 31 concerns were dispatched to the Calgary Police Service regarding mass gatherings of 15 people or more in an area. Additionally, we've also got a task force that's working together to work with businesses that are still remaining open regardless of the essential services order. Last weekend, they received 40 calls from different citizens, bringing the total number of COVID concerns to 560 since we declared a state of local emergency in mid-March. 2 businesses were issued a warning. We will continue to conduct these weekly inspections for the foreseeable future, and non-essential businesses found operating in convention of the public health order could face fines. This is also a great time to remind Calgarians that we are still in a state of local emergency, and it's really up to you to help us stop the spread of COVID-19. We're encouraging you to continue to report any concerns that you may have to 311 or to submit an online request. It is important to note that until further notice, our disc golf courses are closed. This is in addition to other organized sports which are prohibited from being played in the city of Calgary. Our green spaces themselves remain open. This is for passive recreation, such as walking and getting out and getting some air. We are asking you to please respect these closures, along with the other closures that we've had in place for some weeks, including playgrounds, equipment, and infrastructure. For a full list of the closures, please visit calgary.ca/COVID-19. As a city, we're continuing to work together to create safe outdoor areas to provide citizens with a place where they can take care of their mental health needs, they can take a walk, and go for a bike ride. Last week, we restricted parking on the south side of Crescent Road to reduce the traffic, litter, and congestion in the community, including the use of the McHugh Bluff stairs. I'm happy to share that we have received very positive feedback from the residents regarding these closures, and the presence of the peace officers in the area has been well received. Street sweeping. From a street sweeping perspective, we started earlier in April, and we will be running until the end of June. This occurs weekdays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and crews have been progressing through the schedule. We encourage you to check calgary.ca/sweep for these schedules. And we want to take a moment to thank all of the Calgarians that have been able to move your vehicles and facilitate this street sweeping. We also know that COVID-19 pandemic has been really tough on Calgary businesses. We're here to support these local businesses because local businesses in Calgary are Calgary, and we are in this together. Recently, we've reached out to local companies, Hippo Hug and the Alberta Garment Manufacturers, to help source face coverings for our frontline city employees. We're grateful that both of these vendors were able to switch gears and rise to the challenge to keep our employees safe while they are out there serving Calgarians. You too can support our local businesses. This is the time that every citizen can take action to do that. Buy from a local business online. Purchase gift cards that you can use later. Order delivery or takeout from your local restaurants. leave a positive review on social media of a business that you had an interaction with, and spread the word about how businesses are shifting and pivoting during this difficult time. For more information, visit calgary.ca/COVID business. Lastly, I just want to say thank you to those Calgarians that are out there that have taken the right steps and actions. I want to say thank you. You're saving lives by making the sacrifices that you're making, and keep doing what we're doing, and together we will be able to flatten the curve. We're happy to take any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, Sue. And let me echo Sue's thank you and her gratitude to Calgarians for doing the right thing. While we are still seeing increasing case numbers, while we are still seeing increasing deaths, while we are certainly not at the end of this, we certainly know that the actions that Calgarians are taking are, in fact, saving lives. And that's because people are willing to make these sacrifices, not just for their own health, but for the health of others. And I want to say thank you to all of you for doing that. I should have mentioned when I mentioned Fort McMurray up front that we will have our own flood update for you next week. For now, as you know, we're getting into flood danger season in Calgary. The first phase of that has to do with ice dams. We probably don't have much risk of those right now, as there's little to no ice remaining in Calgary's rivers downstream of Bearspaw and Glenmore. This, of course, does not mean we're out of the flood risk. There's still opportunities for flooding starting at our headwaters in the mountains, but we will have a proper update on that next week. Sue talked a lot about supporting local businesses, which is fantastic. Hashtag support local YYC. I want to make sure that businesses and nonprofit organizations are aware that applications for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy, which provides 75% of employee wages, up to 75% of employee wages to eligible organizations, have now opened. You can visit canada.ca/COVID-19 for details. And we were very, very happy last week to hear of moves by the Government of Canada, supported by the Government of Alberta, in helping deal with commercial rent. That really is the number one thing the business have been asking us for, is rent relief, and we were thrilled that the other governments have gone forward with that. These supports for our businesses, especially our small businesses, really are critical. Of course, the number one question we're getting is how and when can the economy reopen? And I wish I had better answers for that. I don't. I do know that Premier Kenney has said that this week he'll be making some announcements around what our relaunch strategy looks like. There's a difference between what and when. Don't forget that. But at least to have a sense of how the whole thing looks. And you've heard me say this before. This is not a switch, it's a dial. This is not opening the floodgates on the Glenmore Dam. This is opening a faucet very carefully and being ready to close the faucet if necessary, if things aren't actually working. And that's really how we need to think about this. Right now, the answer to the question of when will the economy open again is, as always, in your hands, in your clean hands. The public health orders, the restrictions placed under the state of local emergency, those in place by the province, are there for our collective good. And yes, I know for a lot of people it is getting chafing, it is getting frustrating. People are thinking, I want to be able to get out more. I get it. I feel it too. I mean, look, the only place I get to go is the Emergency Operations Center, and that's more than a lot of people get to do. But I think that it is really critical for us to remember that the harder we clamp down on our activities now, the sooner we'll be able to reopen. The quicker we'll be able to flatten the curve. And that's really important for us to remember that. The more we stay home, the greater our chances of reducing the spread. You look at a place like New Zealand, now they're an island and they're not very big, but they clamped down hard at the beginning. And the Prime Minister was able to say that they have almost eliminated the virus from their island, from their islands. And so they are now allowing restaurants to do takeout and delivery. So remember that. They clamped down much harder, and their reopening is almost similar to where we are now in some ways. So we cannot declare victory too early, because if we declare it too early, that means that we'll have to close the tap again, and we'll be back within these restrictions. Don't forget, that the influenza epidemic of 1918, 5 million people died in the first wave, more than 50 million died in the second wave. We don't want that. We want to make sure that we are not going too early and risking people's lives going forward. We've seen great progress. Are we peaked? Are we not peaked? I don't know. We're nowhere near our projected peak. We are perhaps plateaued for a while rather than peaking. But remember, the peak is only halfway there. You got to climb down the peak on the other side. And we cannot risk losing the progress that we have. And I know that families and individuals have made huge sacrifices and small sacrifices, that all of that has been happening together. But I got to tell you that every single time someone tries to find a loophole, every single time somebody says, well, is it okay if I play tennis on the closed tennis court if we use different colored balls and we don't touch the same ball and we only play singles and not doubles and the person I play with lives in my house? Well, yes, probably that is okay, but no. Because every time we look for these loopholes, every time that we try to stretch these things, every time that we say it's okay for you to play tennis on the court, but not for you to play tennis on the court, we run the risk of really backtracking and removing the great progress that we made. Now, I was told this morning by somebody, this is probably going a bit too far, that every time someone tries to find a loophole, they're effectively telling those others who are sacrificing that they don't care if they live or die. I don't think that's the case. I think everybody cares. But I do think that we have to remember that it is, in fact, our own actions that are governing how the pandemic grows. And so when I say the future is in your hands, it's in your clean hands, it really is very true. That every single one of us, by the actions we take, control the flow of this pandemic. The government will not save you from this virus. You will save you from this virus, and you will save other people from this virus by your actions. And every single one of us individually is not invincible, but together we are. Together we cannot be defeated. So I don't know when this is going to end, and I wish I could give you a date or a horizon that we could look at. But I do know that the actions we take together today govern what our future looks like. So I'm asking every single one of you to remember the things we've been talking about. They have not changed. Clean hands. Act not like someone who doesn't want to get sick. Act like someone who's already sick and doesn't want to spread the virus. Act like every single person you meet is your 90-year-old grandmother. Clear heads. Don't give in to frustration and anger and fear and sadness. We all have them. I got them too. But we have to be clear-headed and thoughtful and purposeful in every decision that we make. And most importantly, open hearts. Reaching out to one another, finding new ways to connect in an age of physical distancing, making sure people know that even if they're alone, they're not alone, is really critical. I got to tell you that I had the opportunity, as many Canadians did on Sunday, to watch the Stronger Together performance in aid of food banks across Canada. And you know, I had a lot of work to do, and I was working on the computer, and I sort of had it on in the background, thinking I'll at least listen to some music while I'm working. And I didn't actually get that much work done because I actually found myself during that getting pretty emotional about the people we've lost, about the people who have recovered, about the people who go to work every single day putting themselves at risk so that the rest of us can stay safe. And yes, I cried a little bit when I thought about the heroic healthcare workers, the doctors and nurses and respiratory technicians and orderlies and cleaners and lab techs. Oh my God, the lab techs and the work that they're doing for every single one of us and all the people who go to work in healthcare every day. But the thing that really got me, the thing that, well, I probably couldn't look at my computer for a while because, you know, it was kind of blurry, was when a couple of folks said thank you to the bus drivers and to the garbage collectors. So I got to tell you, I feel a lot of responsibility for those folks. They work for us, after all. They work with us in this organization. And the work that they're doing every single day is so important. And we cannot take the risks that they are taking for granted. And the work that we do is what eventually helps them. The work that they do is what eventually helps us stay safe. So with that, I think we have a slightly different way of taking questions today. So if you have a question, media, I'd like you to hit *1, *1, and you'll be able to get yourself in the queue. By the way, I have this weekly phone call with all the mayors and reeves from across the province with different ministers and sometimes the premier and Dr. Hinshaw. And they say like 100 times, hit *3 if you have a question. And I got to tell you, I have hit *3 so many times and nothing happens. So I'm entirely convinced that they have blocked me from being able to ask questions on those calls. But hopefully we haven't blocked any media. So that was just me buying time so people could hit *1. So operator, can you put the first question through, please?
First is Madeline Smith with the Calgary Herald. Go ahead, Madeline.
Hey there, this question is for Deputy Chief Henry. Nice to virtually meet you, Sue. I just was wondering if you could give a little more detail about tickets that were issued, the three $1,200 tickets. Are you able to say sort of the areas that those were handed out? And is there any more detail on what the circumstances were? I know that Chief Sampson has said that he only wants to see ticketing in sort of egregious circumstances. So can you speak a little more about what was going on?
Thank you for the question. The 3 violation tickets of $1,200 each were for physical distancing requirements in Lindsay Park. And you are correct that these are for egregious disregard for the behavior that is required.
Can you be more specific about what that egregious behavior looked like?
I don't have any more specifics on that.
Okay, thank you.
Next question, please.
Next is Kevin Nimick with CTV. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hi there. Just a couple questions here. First, I'm going to follow up with Deputy Chief Henry. I know you said you didn't have more specifics, but could you at least say the timeline on these tickets? Were these on Saturday or Sunday, or when did that happen?
These numbers were given after Friday, so it occurred sometime on the weekend, either Friday or Saturday.
Okay, gotcha. So my second question is for the mayor. Mayor, last week you said that social gatherings of 15 people or less were really just for funerals and unavoidable activities. Since then, the province has posted recommendations online saying gatherings for social reasons with friends and family are allowed as long as everyone stays 2 meters away. They included walks and bike rides as examples. So I think some Calgarians seem to be getting mixed messages here. So what's your advice for people who want to see their friends and family?
Yeah, so I was actually quite pleased to see a little teensy bit of loosening of the restrictions from public health. So our advice still is stay home as much as you can. However, if you want to do those driveway visits, those Sunday suppers that my family was doing at the beginning of this, where the people in the house stay on the porch and the other people sit at the end of the driveway or the end of the lawn, that's okay. Just don't make a huge habit of it. Make sure that you're really, really staying safe in all of this, because we want to ensure that people don't take that 6 foot as I'm totally safe if I'm 6 foot or 2 meters or the width of a full grown llama away from the other person, and then I can do anything. You know, I can go, have a party in the park as long as I stay 6 feet away. For people who really feel the need to see their family and their friends, and remember that those gatherings of 15, I'll remind you, are for people under 60 years old, people who don't have any pre-existing conditions, people who are not immunosuppressed. So for me, I'm really erring on the side of caution and making sure that we are still really careful. But you're certainly not going to get one of those tickets that Sue talked about if you're having a driveway visit with folks. I'm still saying try to stay away from, going and having a picnic or being for a period of time in the park with people who are not part of your cohort that are 6 feet away from you. I still think that's getting a little bit too close to riskier behavior. But ultimately, I was pleased that public health has eased up a little bit on these restrictions, just clarifying that you can see people, but don't make it for long periods of time. And don't think that that is a magic thing that is going to keep you safe, and don't involve people who are at risk. Sue, did I miss anything there? Next question, please.
Next is Darren Kraus with Livewire. Go ahead, Darren.
Hi there. This is probably for Mayor Nenshi again. I just want to follow up on some of these questions around the ticketing. I mean, there does seem to be this whole idea of mixed messaging. I mean, on one hand, when you were talking earlier, you mentioned loopholes that people are trying to exploit, and I think that's where some of the confusion is. Would it be easier if there were hard and fast rules for people to follow?
There are hard and fast rules, and I think that's the key here, is those people who are trying to exploit loopholes are looking for loopholes that don't exist. So the point is that we've done tons of education. We've done weeks of education. And in fact, that's always our philosophy at the City of Calgary, that we always educate before we enforce on things. If you're stunting on Crescent Road and you're having parties at night, guess what? That's not allowed. That's not a loophole. It's actually a rule. It's not allowed. If you are in an outdoor running club with people that don't work with you and you're running all together and blocking a pathway, that's not allowed. So I take some exception to people who say, you know, the rules are not clear. They're very clear. Stay at home as much as you can. Stay at least 2 meters away from anybody that doesn't live with you, that isn't in your cohort. Stay away from people who are at risk. And if you are someone at risk, you have a different set of rules. That's really it. You know, if you're not at home, you should be doing one of 4 things. You should be doing your weekly shopping, preferably with only one member of the family where possible. You should be performing an essential service. You should be volunteering to help somebody who can't get out. Or you should be out for about an hour a day max, doing your fresh air and your exercise and having proper social distancing. And I'll add a 4A, physically distant visits for people who are isolated. So beyond that, I think that it is really important to understand that the rules are actually very, very, very clear. And yes, indeed, as we learn more and as the curve flattens, I fully expect that public health will start easing up on some of these restrictions. But right now, as always, it's better safe than sorry. I think Sue has a little more information to add on the sorts of things that are getting people ticketed.
So we have been able to confirm with our folks at Calgary Community Standards that the 3 tickets were issued in Lindsay Park on Friday evening to 3 adult males who were flagrantly ignoring the social distancing orders and would not separate. It's also important to note we referenced the skate parks and the tickets that were given out at the skate parks as well on the weekend. The skate park was closed and it was a fenced off closure, and the tickets were given to adults on site there.
Next question, please.
Next is Jordan Canigan with CTV Calgary. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. This is another follow-up for the mayor. Just with mentioning that public health have eased up just a little bit on some of those restrictions, there might be more people in parks or on pathways now that we are hearing that people outside of your household, you are allowed to hang out with them as long as you're still practicing safe physical distancing. So will the city be looking at any further measures to close down any more streets or provide more space on sidewalks and pathways to provide more space for the potential for more groups to be out and about in the public?
You know, there really is a limit to what you can do. And I want to remind people that even if you're having a brief socially distant visit, notice I underlined those words, brief and socially distant, still try to do that in neighborhoods. Don't say, hey everybody, let's meet for a socially distant picnic at Princess Island. It's still not a wise thing to do. There's just too much danger out there. So you really want to be able to stay in your own neighborhood. And if you're going to visit someone, you know, visit in that neighborhood where things might be a bit quieter. That would be the advice that I give people. Of course, we are continually monitoring this and ensuring that where we are seeing bottlenecks, we're doing everything we can to encourage physical distancing. But the other thing that I have to remind people as well is folks live in these neighborhoods, right? That pathway that you travel to is someone else's neighborhood park. And so if I live in Eau Claire, for example, and I open my door because I want to go walk in my park, which is the pathway outside my door, but I actually cannot go there because there's too many people there, that really is a problem. By the way, and one other thing I should mention on that is that I forgot to mention this earlier, which is we haven't actually spoken in this format since we've seen the outbreaks at the drop-in center and at the Salvation Army. And, you know, we've been talking for some time about how that was, for me, one of my very top, if not the top, public health concerns. And I know that my colleagues in Calgary neighborhoods are working very hard with the shelter operators, with the folks from the Alberta government and community and social services to make sure that we're containing those outbreaks. But it's an example of how it is very easy for an outbreak to begin, and we need to be really careful because those can hit any one of us. Oh, and I forgot to say one thing. If you are traveling to a neighborhood, be a good neighbor. Don't take people's parking spots. Be polite. If you are driving to that neighborhood, if you are parking, and just make sure to be really neighborly. And again, I'll just highlight this one more time. Just because it's okay to do it doesn't mean everybody should do it and everybody should do it right now. You know, this is an additional freedom or privilege or right, whatever you like, that has been granted, but it doesn't mean everyone needs to exercise it every single day because, again, we want to make sure that as we open the dial, we don't have to close the dial again. Next question, please.
Next is Kristen Anderson with Post Media. Go.
Hi. This is, I guess, a question for either of you. Sport Calgary released a survey from some of their participating organizations regarding the financial impact of missing sport and registrations. Varying organizations are feeling the crunch more than others. And I know that BC is relaxing, obviously, some of the rules because they are flattening the curve as the weather gets warmer and public recreation centers want to reopen. Is there, you know, obviously everybody's feeling this crunch, but, you know, is there any plan to look at that, at potentially some of Sport Calgary's participating organizations, you know, potentially reopening or relaxing some of the rules surrounding, you know, sport, outdoor sport, and recreation in the city?
There may be some things happening at the margins with particular sport where you can stay safe, but let's remember that there is still a restriction on gatherings of more than 15 people. And so it's hard to imagine any team sport being able to, and that's everybody, that's players, fans, coaches, you name it. So it's really hard to imagine any particular organized sport being relaxed anytime soon while that 15-person limit is still in place. As for the organizations themselves, it is important for me to remind those organizations, most of which are nonprofits, that a lot of the stuff that the federal government in particular has announced is available for nonprofit organizations, and they have announced some specialized funding for arts, culture, and sport organizations about last week. I think the days are starting to run into one another. And so I really encourage those organizations to look out at that. But ultimately, we'll work closely with public health, with the province of Alberta, and ensure that if and when restrictions are eased, then we will be looking very carefully at what kind of sport activities could fall under those loosened restrictions. But ultimately, public health remains our priority. Next question.
Next is Scott Dipple with CBC. Go ahead, Scott.
Hi, I have two questions for the mayor. First, given the information that was just shared regarding tickets having to be issued, is it your perception that the situation is getting better, or is it the education isn't working and now bylaw is doing what it has to do?
I'm being very anecdotal about this, but my anecdotes show that the vast, vast majority of Calgarians are doing the right thing. And where we had seen some concentrated areas of bad activity, such as Crescent Road, we've been able to come in and basically fix the problem. And what I've heard from the residents on Crescent Road, Sue said that they are pleased. What I've heard is they are ecstatic that the situation has completely flipped. There's still tons of people walking on the road and enjoying the view, but they are doing so in a way that is safe, that is socially distanced, and so on. So my sense is things are getting better, but that combination of education and enforcement is really important, because ultimately, you know, one outbreak in one workplace has led to hundreds and hundreds of cases in the city of Calgary. And so you just can't let your guard down. And sometimes you need that enforcement in place. And I know very well that the Calgary Police and or our bylaw officers are enforcing only flagrant violations. And when we see those, we're going to act. Yeah, you said you had two questions, Scott?
Yes, you did touch upon the hundreds of cases related to the Cargill plant, and of course, a lot of those people do live in Calgary. Are you getting any requests or any sense that there's more that the city needs to do to help those people while they're self-isolating, or do you think they're getting adequate supports?
Yes, so about 60% of the folks who work at Cargill live in the city of Calgary, and just as recently as last night, I personally received a request around how we might be able to help with food for those folks who are self-isolating. I know social agencies across the city have come together in order to help with those people. So, and we played a convening role in doing that. So, while the capital C city probably doesn't have a ton of work to do, my colleagues in Calgary neighborhoods have been working incredibly hard on this since Saturday, on Saturday a week ago, on ensuring that the agencies are in place, the isolation metrics are in place, that some people are being isolated from their families or from their household situation if other people were not positive. So this really is a test, track, treat situation. And when I say treat, I don't necessarily mean treat the disease. I mean treat everything around it to make sure people have enough food, that they're able to make it through the isolation period okay, understanding that a lot of these folks, you know, were not highly paid workers living a difficult and sometimes marginal existence. So we're just making sure that we have the supports that they need, and frankly, that everyone in the city needs as we're moving forward. All right, next question, please.
Next is Jackie Perez with City News. Go ahead, Jackie.
Hi, this question's for the Deputy Chief. For the violations drinking in a public space, what's the general age of the people who are ticketed?
We've got information that they are adults. We have not ticketed any children. They are adults that have been ticketed.
Okay, thank you.
We'll take
Gil Tucker with Global TV.
Next question, please.
Yeah, Gil Tucker with Global TV. Go ahead, Gil.
Hello. This would be for whoever wants to answer. I got a couple quick questions here. You know, with the gatherings now being under 15, you can get together safely as long as you don't share food and drink. What about the kids? If you've got small kids, how do you keep them apart?
You know, I don't know if Sue will have anything to add to this, but when I said before to be really careful of people at risk, kids are not so much at risk of getting very ill from the disease, though that has happened, but they are huge germ spreaders. I was talking to someone yesterday who said, you know, ever since my grandchildren aren't coming over, I've never been so healthy in my life. And so I'll just be blunt about it. I don't have the right to issue the order, but I'm going to issue it anyway. Yeah, no play dates. Do not bring kids in close contact with kids with whom they have not been isolating. It's just not the right time. So again, I want to be super clear on this. The public health advice is not do this. The public health advice is you won't get in trouble if you do this, if I can be that blunt. It is that if you take a bunch of precautions and you really feel the need to be doing this, then you can. It's not suddenly it's totally okay to have birthday parties and play dates and people over for dinner if it's under 15 people. So remember something. Let's say that you decide to have people over and you're going to have a barbecue and everyone's going to stay 6 feet apart. What happens when someone goes inside and touches the doorknob? What happens when someone uses the washroom? Can you make sure that you're not facilitating the transmission of the disease that way? And obviously, if you're a little kid, it's impossible. That's why the playgrounds are closed. It's just too difficult to keep them from touching. And remember that we do know that children who are asymptomatic can spread the disease. Anybody who's asymptomatic can spread the disease. We know that to be true. And so ultimately, while the advice has eased up a little bit on gatherings, you have to have a lot of common sense. It doesn't mean have people over for dinner. It doesn't even mean have people over for a barbecue. It means spread limited periods of time on driveway visits or a quick meeting in the park to say hello to one another, but it doesn't mean spend hours at a time, 6 feet apart, especially in an environment where you could be touching the same things. Did you say you had a second question, Gil?
And I have another. Yeah, a quick question about Kensington Manor, the demolition, and how has the state of emergency affected the project, and is there concern about the size of it being so close to the homes and businesses right next door to it?
That I actually don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you that construction and demolition have been deemed essential services. A lot of people are still going to work every day on construction work sites, and that's something that I believe in. It keeps that piece of the economy going. So I imagine that we would follow the exact same safety precautions that we would normally follow on a project like that, but I will ask, and if we get some more information on that, we'll make sure to get that to you. We can probably take 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Next is Darren. You know what? Our last 2 questions are for us that I've already asked. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Sure. We got Darren Krause from Livewire again.
Hi there. Thanks for this. The first question, I do have 2. The first question is just a quick clarification. I want to make sure the 31 requests that were dispatched to the Calgary Police, was that for gatherings of 15 or more, or 50 or more?
It would be 15, 1-5. And on that note, I've received lots of notes just from friends and Facebook people and so on that are saying, hey, my neighbor's having a party. Is it wrong for me to rat them out? To be that blunt. That's what 311 and that's what the police non-emergency line are for. You can explain what's going on. The people on the other end can tell you, you know what, that's actually something that's allowed, or that is actually a problem, and we can deal with it. That's what we do. And I want to encourage people to use those reporting mechanisms, either 311 or the police non-emergency line, if they have questions or if they are concerned about these things. Your second question?
Yeah, so I just, along the lines of what you were talking about there, Mayor Nenshi, is there a concern about the number of tickets or complaints? It does seem to be escalating, and I don't mean to retread some of the ground that Scott just asked about, but are we concerned about the rise?
Look, I'd love it to be 0, but I can tell you that the cases that we're seeing are very isolated, that the vast majority of people are not doing this stuff and frankly are horrified that other people are doing this stuff. Even folks who would like us to open more quickly, by and large, recognize the need to follow the rules now. And so I think it's fine that we are enforcing. I think it's fine that we're ticketing flagrant violations. I think it's fine for people to call in with their questions, because sometimes the answer will be, actually, that business is allowed to operate, or, those people are all from the same family, it's fine. Or the same household. It's just a household with a lot of people. It's okay to ask these sorts of things, and ultimately, the right people are doing the right thing. But when they're not, they're putting other people at risk, and that's something we won't tolerate. All right, we'll go to our final question then for today.
All right, final question is Scott Dipple from CBC. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, one other question, Mayor, a non-COVID matter, and that is that Sutena has announced that they received a $32 million grant from the provincial government, and that is as part of the arrangement for them to drop their opposition to the Springbank off-stream reservoir. And just wondering about your thoughts about that in terms of money being paid to essentially secure that.
I hadn't heard that before. You just mentioned it, Scott. Listen, this is an absolutely essential project. We must build upstream flood mitigation on the Elbow River. We know that the Springbank Dry Dam is the right thing to do. And it's going to get built, and I'm looking forward to getting it built. And I'll say to the province of Alberta, you know what? Thank you for doing everything you can to clear whatever barriers remain in the way to get that built. And I'll say to the government of Canada, I know you're very busy, but man, oh man, that environmental assessment is very late. We need that approval, and we need it quickly. So with that, let me say thank you to everybody. Scott, did you have a follow-up? I should have been polite and asked you that.
No, that's fine. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thanks very much, everybody. We will have another briefing on Thursday. I probably won't be here because we have a council meeting on Thursday, but we will work out the details and you will know. But everyone, stay safe, clean hands, clear heads, open hearts. Stay home for those who can't. Be kind always to everyone, and together we'll save lives. Thank you all.